The stories we tell ourselves matter. The stories we tell ourselves about the universe, about God, about ourselves, about who we are, about who others are in relation to us. All these stories shape, everything. They shape who we're becoming. They shape how we exist in the world. They shape the way we live. What we do once we wake up out of bed each day is shaped by the stories that we believe. This was the idea that we explored a little bit in my last video in this gospel series, where I unpack some of the stories that I have struggled with, that I have believed about myself. Talked about some of the stories in this world that are falling apart. And I started to introduce you to what I call the great counter story. The gospel. Jesus' story that I believe he taught, lived, and embodied. A story that I think is truer than true. A story that I think is baked into reality. A story that I think our soul longs for. And so that's what this series is about. And that's what I want to continue telling. But to tell a good story, I need to start at the beginning. And so if you didn't know, there were 66 books in the Bible, spanning thousands of years and telling really this story. So in this video, I'd love to start in the first book, the setup, the act one, the context, the wide shot as we come in and work out where we are and what the setup is. The book of Genesis. Now, a little disclaimer. For some of you, great, let's get into it. For others that have been around this conversation for a little while, Genesis, unfortunately, has kind of been hijacked by one single conversation. Anytime someone brings up Genesis, it feels like we have to talk about this 7-day picture. This idea, did God create the world in 7 days? Or, as some modern science looks around and says, hey, it could be older than that, or it could have taken longer than that. There seems to be this constant discussion and wrestle and debate. Now, I do have my own convictions about that, but honestly, and I want to be careful. I don't care is not probably the right way to say it, but let me put it this way. There are another 1,000, if not 1,000,000 videos on that subject trying to debate that. But I do have to wonder if the author of Genesis, when they wrote this incredible, deep poem about who we are and setting up who God is and what our purpose is, I do wonder if they hoped that all we would do is debate with it, treating it like a science textbook, rather than the beautiful, deep, and true, formative story that it is. Now, that's not to say I don't believe in 7 days. In fact, if you want to message me on any of the forums, I'm happy to tell you my convictions, happy to send you to some links. But in this video, I want to speak a little deeper, if that's okay. I want to talk about the conversation is happening at the time of this book being written, and how this counter story already starts to stand up against many of the stories that we tell ourselves today. So we're going to open up in Genesis 1. We're going to look at a few snippets in this video. It's going to come up on the screen. However, I do encourage you in the bio, in the comment section maybe, that I will put some links to the full book of Genesis and also some of the chapters we're using and reading from, so that you can read more fully, more holistically. You can do your own research. You can discuss this with groups if you want. You can discuss this with friends. And so I'm only giving a few snippets for the length of this video, but please read, confront me, check up on me. If you don't agree of how I've explained it, more than happy to have that conversation. So for now, let's dig in to the beginning of this counter story. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. God saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. Let's pause there, because already this is saying something different to the counter story of the time of this being written. Most scholars believe this was written around the time when the Assyrian creation narrative was going around as well. People will claim that this is copied from that, but no, a better explanation is this is part of the conversation. You see, the Assyrian texts talk about chaos as well, but they talk about the creation of the world coming out of chaos. Normally a fight between God and another entity, or fights between multiple gods. Other ancient texts say that God created us for kind of to mine gold, or to do work, or we were accidents, meaningless, either chore monkeys, or we were just complete cosmic accidents, and they regretted it. And there's lots of different narratives at that time. Funny enough, those narratives still exist today. Those stories are being told all the time. Tell me if you recognize a few of these stories. We're merely a meaningless cosmic accident. We are born from chaos and only produce, therefore, chaos. We exist to produce and consume, work and consume. We are programmed for evil and destruction. It's just who we are at the very core. We are just a toy thing for the gods. We're individuals. We exist for ourselves alone. All of these stories, Genesis in the first few lines is already starting to butt up against. Starting to say things like, hey, no, it's not an accident. Hey, no, hang on. We didn't come out of just pure chaos and war. There was intention. There was formless things given form, given life. A very different story to the one being told back then and today. Let's continue though. So moving along through the days, we get to verse 25. God made the wild animals according to their kinds, the livestock according to their kinds, and all the creatures that move along the ground according to their kinds. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness, so that they may rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, over the livestock and the wild animals, and over all the creatures that move along the ground. So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Man and female, he created them. God blessed them and said, be fruitful and increase in number, fill the earth and subdue it, rule over the fish in the sea and the birds of the sky, and over every living creature that moves on the ground. Then God said, I give you every seed-bearing plant on the face of the earth, every tree that has fruit with seed in it. This will be yours for food. And to all the beasts of the earth and the birds in the sky and all the creatures that move along the ground, everything that has breath of life in it, I give every green plant for food. And it was so. God saw all that he had made, and it was very good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the sixth day. I'll pause again. Here we continue this counter story, already speaking to the ancient stories about man being created for, mining or slave, or kind of just some scientific accident experiment from cosmic aliens. No, the story here that this is proposing is that we were created in the image of God, that we were created for a beautiful purpose, that we were created to do life with God. We were given this world, this ultimate, I can't help but think, the ultimate Minecraft server. I don't know if you know the history of Minecraft, but they tried to pitch it for years. And people go, what's the point of it? And because it didn't have an end at the time. It still doesn't have a proper end, but it didn't have an end, or it didn't have quests. It just let people mold and play. And game producers didn't get it until they released it finally. They found someone. And it's been the longest running game, one of the highest earning games. And it's this idea that we can just create with our imagination, that we can build. And that in a way deeper sense is what God said here. Hey, we're going to create you in, notice the plurality, our image. Multiple theories on that, which we won't get into right now. But I love this idea that this cosmic trinity, this cosmic community, is creating more community. It's always looking for community to create with. And so, higher than the animals, not just animals, created with something deeper and more significant, given purpose and identity and this garden and this world to explore and subdue and build. Wow, an identity, a purpose, and a community. I don't know about you, but this, taking it and looking at through this lens, it already speaks something to deep within my bones, baked into reality, because I think this is when it was baked into reality. It is reality, this counter story. Let me just read the last bit and the last few comments. Thus the heavens were completed in all their vast array. By the seventh day, God had finished the work he had been doing. So on the seventh day, he rested from all his work. Then God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it he rested from the work of creating that he had done. How's that? God rests on the seventh day. Now, it's probably something you know, that he rests on the seventh day. You probably know that he doesn't need to rest. He's God. So he's giving humanity an example. And what I like about this example is, what do we get to do? What does humanity do on its first day? Well, it gets created, and then the very next day it rests. So our first day was full of play, rest, and time with God. That is a completely different counter-narrative to the stories of where we are here to produce and build, that we are here just to consume everything, that we are just here to, I don't know, we're just here to be part of the factory. We're just only as good as what we make. No. The beginning story says, no, we're good. Because God says we're good. And we will create. But not for some KPIs, but because we are created and have the same image as the Creator. And so we will subdue and create and build out of that. It's like in those rare moments where you get a piece of work in your job and it just clicks with everything, and you have these moments, and I don't think we have them a lot, but you have these moments where you're like, I was created for this. That is the type of work. That is the type of creation that is given to us in this first few chapters of this first book, in this great big counter story known as the gospel. So what does this story say against the story of the time and the stories of today that are falling apart? Well, it says this: we're not a cosmic accident. We were created with purpose and intention. We're not born from chaos and only produce chaos. We are formed, fearfully and wonderfully made. We don't exist to produce and consume. We're invited to rest and create. We aren't just programmed for evil and destruction. We are given a choice. We're not just a toy thing or a slave to the gods. We're created in the image of God. We're not just individuals that exist for ourselves. We're created for community with each other and God. I'm going to say something a little arrogant. I think deep down, whatever your belief right now, whatever story you're telling yourself, I think you know this. Not in the sense that you know the details, you may not believe all of what I've just said, you may not sure how that all played out, I get that. But I believe the world so obviously wants to be back in that garden, so desperate to know who it is, that it'll try all types of identity. So desperate to understand its purpose, that it'll sell all types of ideas and things and concepts. So desperate for its community with God and each other, There'll be all types of religion or religious activity. And I'm not just talking about churches. I'm talking about all the many religions of sport, of tech, of politics, of comfort, of leisure. All these things crying out to be back in that garden. It's like our soul cries out for this. So I think we know. When I think about this longing to be back in the garden, I thought about this 2016 art installation. I don't know if you've seen it, but here's a picture of it here. It's this hydraulic machine that is leaking hydraulic fluid. And what it does all day and every day is tries to sweep it or mop it back into itself. And it kind of looks like blood, this fluid, but it's never fulfilled. It literally is trying to make itself whole unsuccessfully. It's this weird torture hellscape picture, as it's just desperate to fill itself back up, but it can't ever suffice because it's broken. Your career, your identity, your politics, your pronouns, Labour, Liberal, Greens, Trump, Camilla, war, winning wars, building buildings, getting rich, getting famous, being liked by your peers, being respected by your peers, knowledge, degrees, grades, even peak human health and form, impressing parents, co-workers, family, friends, being super dad, super mum, being cleverer, funnier, AI, self-driving cars and self-landing rockets, crystals, and even modern day psychology. While not all evil, will not bring you back to the garden in relationship with God, where you are fully known, where you can be created naked and vulnerable and seen, where you're given identity and purpose, and where you get to play, where work is creating, where community is good, where things aren't broken and leaking and you are full. And out of rest, we work together with the divine. I don't know about you, but I long for this. How's it for you? You may not believe in any of this. You may know not what you think of it all. Sorry, that was a weird way to say it. But my guess is, like I said, you have been trying to get back to that garden. And I wonder what the latest thing you're trying is. And is it working? If it is, oh, hey, let me know. Because I long for it too. Because although that opens a picture where we are with God and it is good, things do change. And we're going to talk about that in the next video. Things do break. And we're not there now. But there is a way back. There is a greater story that continues to be told. And we're going to continue to try to tell it through the next few videos. And so for now, I'd love you to reflect on the ways you've been trying to get back into the garden and if they're working. And if you already know the great counter story, the gospel, then I encourage you to reflect on it again, afresh. Because the world's pretty distracting. Even if you found your way back. The world wants to tell you 10 seconds after you remember that you're not enough, that you need more products, that you need to buy more, that you need to produce, that you need more social status. They'll rob you of that, even when you find it. And so I hope this video might have been an invitation to the gospel afresh for the first time, or just an encouragement to come back. To come back into relationship with the Creator. And to create with Him. Look forward to seeing you in the next video.